This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from editor and publisher. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And this episode sponsored by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide understand the need to accelerate its growth now. Plus, traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way. IQ Audience Plus is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers media companies to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income now with IQ Audience Plus. Visit townnews.com EP today to learn more. And hi once again, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P. Quick housekeeping. If you're on Stitcher, Spotify, whatever podcast channel you're on, please do us a favor and subscribe to our weekly vodcast series, E&P Reports. You're on YouTube, bottom of the screen, hit subscribe, smash the bell to the right. You'll get an update each and every time we upload a new episode. Ken Doctor is well known for 15 years of pontificating to this industry. What's good news? What's bad news? And remember the groundbreaking book that came out 10 years ago called Newsonomics, where he made predictions about our industry, which mostly became true 10 years later. Well, Ken, as you likely may remember, when we interviewed him 6 months ago, decided to get into the business and launch a brand new news operation in Santa Cruz County, California, called Lookout Local. Joining him in the startup was Jed Williams, the former chief strategy officer of the local media association. And together now, they are 6 months in to this experiment. We're going to check in with them. It's our 6-month checkup with Jed Williams and Ken Doctor as E&P Reports takes a look at Lookout Local Santa Cruz. Ken, Jed.
Yes, good morning, Mike.
Good afternoon. I know we have a time difference here. I'm way out here in Tampa, Florida. You're way out there in California. It's good to see both of you. And the reason we invited you back for E&P Reports is we chatted with you, Ken, and Jed before you started Lookout Local out there in the Santa Cruz County area. And now you're having your 6-month anniversary, right? What's it been, 6 months and a week now, guys?
It's been 6 months and 2 weeks, I think.
6 months and 2 weeks.
Not that anyone's counting, and not that the space-time continuum hasn't been completely melted over the past 6 or 15 months, but here we are.
I know, and remember, Ken has a rule that you can't say new normal unless you have a shot of alcohol. That was the game we were playing last time we chatted in the middle of the pandemic.
Too early for that on the West Coast.
Too early for that. Well, no, anyway. Let's chat. 6 months in, brand new news concept. Everybody's buzzing about it. Everyone keeps an eye on you. Where are you at now with metrics? How many people are registered for emails right now?
I'll let Jed give you the latest numbers, but they are in the 5 figures.
That's great.
Over 10,000. And
excellent.
Which I would have to point out, given my other half of my head, which is now receding in the history of being a news analyst, is more than the daily print circulation of the local daily.
No, that's great because I think one of the best ways I have found to move audience into new things at E&P was the email database. If you work it right, it can be an amazingly fine asset. You guys, Jed, you were preaching that even before you moved over there when you were working at the local media association, email and data. So you got 11.5. The first 3 months, you were wide open, right?
Actually, we have, not that I'm counting and not that I go to sleep at night with these numbers or anything, but we have 12,523 to the number. And we're adding about 100, between 80 and 100 new email addresses a day. And upwards of 2,000, 2,500 a month. There are a lot of metrics you can study, and there are a lot of big metrics and KPIs we focus on. But among the most paramount for us is the growth of that healthy database, to your point.
That's everything to me. That's the one thing that I hold so near and dear to me. I analyze, I look at every day. Go ahead, Ken, I'm sorry.
The funny thing too on that is Jed is, as you said, I mean, he brought all that experience from LMA and other places to it. He is the master of our tech stack, and our tech stack is built for expansion, as we've talked about where we want to go with Lookout. The funny thing is, as we have talked many times a day, every day, I would say like, okay, where are we at with all the data? And then the data people and all of our partners of Bluelina, Active Campaign, Parsley, Pico, and all, they would say that you got a great tech stack and it's the most advanced of any entity your size, but you're new, so you really don't have enough data. And that is something that completely eluded me. But now 6 months in, we finally start to be able to use it and to segment the way that we can harness the power of that stack.
Well, that was my next question. Of that 12 and change, Jed, how sophisticated are you in the data you're collecting? I mean, is it a basic email address? Are you checking it against the programmatic universe? What are you doing with all that data as you start to collect it?
Yeah, I mean, so we'll get to, I think, more advanced third-party data appends and bringing in outside sources to enhance and enrich that database in time. I mean, where we start, and it's obviously it's a balance in a game of trade-offs, right? You hear this all the time, which is you'd like to capture as much consumer or reader or audience data as you can in that moment of conversion or whenever you have a moment to communicate with them. But the more you ask for and the more hurdles you put up, the more friction, the more resistance to people wanting to give you any data to begin with, right? So that's the balancing act. You know, and through Pico, who's our back-end technology partner, and Bluelina, among others, we've fallen into the camp of like, overall, this has to be a really clean, good, usable user experience. What a concept. It can't have 10 or 12 flashing, terribly targeted ads trying to distract you from getting to the content you want. It can't be blocking you at every stage saying, Mike, I need 3 more data points, or we can't talk to you anymore or serve you content. So we've made it very clean as a UI, both the overall design of the site, but also when you go to register for the site, when you go to sign up for an email newsletter, actions like that, we ask you for one thing. We ask you for your email address and to verify it. And then it is our job in building the relationship with you as the reader and the consumer moving forward to figure out what are all of those touch points and what are all of the credible ways that we can continue to connect with you and gain more information and ask you for more information. And so we've been able to append event attendees, people that have participated in contests or surveys or quizzes or whatever it might be. Of course, people that are members, what civic groups they participate in and have given to in the community tied to membership, what sources they use to first access Lookout and now access it more regularly. So it's, this is an organic, always ongoing process. But we've been able to do a fair amount of data enrichment and append to start to, of those 12,523, to now start to have more of a composite profile of who does this person appear to be to us.
All right, so let's talk about conversion. Let's go to Ken on this one. Ken, you were 3 months free, correct? No paywall. That's how that was the model you said you were going to do. And you said 90 days in, we're going to start to charge for content. What are you charging?
So we are charging $17 per month or $187 per year, which gets you a free month, 12 months for the price of 11.
Okay.
And we landed on that price after some early testing. We actually offered membership, even though we were free, we offered membership from the beginning. And we had, because there's such a hunger for news, we had people signing up. Jen and I made the decision at the beginning, we were offering $15 or $165 a year. And it was nice. The people were coming in, and even though it was completely free, and we were very clear it's free, but if you'd like to become a member. And we made what seemed to be to some people a counterintuitive decision to go up, which is not the usual route. And we talked to pricing experts that we both know about the pros and cons of that, and decided very, very strongly with our business strategy and philosophy that we're building a value product and that we were not going to ruin the recognition of that by a lot of cheap discounting, and that we could say authentically to this community, we have the biggest newsroom, we've hired good journalists, 70% of our expenses go to paying the journalists. This is what it costs. I am amazed at this point. Of course, we gotten some letters, and we get letters from I'm a poor pensioner. Can you give me a break and that kind of thing. Mostly, though, we get oh, I get it. And I've answered, and Jed does a lot of the customer service. I do a little of it. You get questions like, "That's $2 more than the New York Times," and we write each person back, and we say, "Yeah, and here's why." They have a worldwide market of 7 billion to reach. We have 276,000, and people go, "Okay, thank you."
All right.
So that's our pricing.
And it's one-tier pricing. You're not doing anything like Colorado Sun with two levels, the skimmer level and the in-depth level. Are you exploring that idea at all?
I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I think certainly we'll explore that, Mike. When does that happen? What does that look like? TBD. I think we both certainly envision a world where in time you have different tiers and you have different levels. Okay. As you're appealing to more and more audiences, you're moving beyond your initial early adopters. You're moving beyond those people that are already passionate news hounds and civically engaged, and you're really trying to reach the whole populace. But I would tell you also on this decision of 17 and 187, one of those pricing experts that Ken referenced is our good buddy Pete Doucette. And right. I think the world of Pete. And I really have ARPU ringing in my ears from Pete every time we're having this guy, ARPU, ARPU. And what he means by that is like, if you're really a value-based product, you must convey and communicate and protect the value of that product from your first days and consistently. Now, you also have to deliver on your promise. If you just say we need to get paid money to sustain a newsroom and then you don't deliver on quality news and community, it all falls down. Right. But if you start out devaluing the true value of your product, and we've seen this, frankly, and I have a lot of experience in it, Ken has seen this as well. There's way too much of this across the local media industry in general, specifically with newspapers of basically $1 a holler, $1 for 6 months. It's free for a period of time. And one, it's sending the wrong psychological pricing message to a consumer. But two, it gets you on a figurative hamster wheel of playing catch up with your average revenue per reader or user. And it's really hard to actually ever get caught up.
So what's the number now? What have we got paying? Ken, correct me if I'm wrong. I saw when you put out your 6-month thank you letter, you're just slightly under 1,000 paid subscribers.
We are approaching 1,000. I think we will get there either by the end of this month or early July. So that's 1,000 fully paying members. And that ARPU number is a really important one. So it is about $164 a year. Now that's after our expenses like Stripe and expenses and that kind of stuff. And we do our community give back program where we're giving 10% to a community organization. That's after that. So to Jed's point, this is we know we could have, we could speculate. We could have 1,500, we could have 2,000, maybe if we were a $9.95 product. But we are rather we are building it kind of digital brick by digital brick. Good pricing, doesn't need to be that quick. And Jed, tell Mike the churn number. This is the one that cheers me the most.
Yeah, that was my next question. Go ahead. What's the churn number?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not the fact that 76% of our members are annual right now, which is a great number and really important to building an annuity business, if that's not our favorite, then it's the fact that in 6 months and 2 weeks, gosh, Ken, we're on to a second hand now. I'm so crestfallen. We have 6 total cancellations, 6 out of approaching 1,000 members, not 6%, not 66. And I mean, obviously in time, that number will grow and change, but we're really resolved by the response, not just the fact that people are signing up, but they're making annual commitments and they're staying and they're really investing in us for the long haul so that we can be here for the long haul.
When I first chatted with both of you just before launch, I showed a little of my resentment. Check that. I think I showed a lot of my resentment that we were hearing for months, coming soon, the new Ken Doctor buffet, if I may use that. Who was the guy that said buffet? I got to keep
Don Davidow.
Yeah, that's right. NPR, right? That was where
WBUR Boston.
WBR. I said the buffet where you're pulling just the right things. And I said, why aren't you launching this in an existing newspaper environment? Why aren't you fixing something that's like 100 years old or 80 years old or 150 years old? And Jed, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You jumped in on that one and said the culture wasn't there. We wanted to come out of the box brand new. So I'm asking you this, Jed. You're now bragging on some really good numbers, because the two biggest issues right now in our industry today are audience revenue and sponsored content.
Yep.
Blame it either. I mean, that's where everybody's talking now. Is it because you're out? Like, if you were to, let me give you, Jed, I got to ask the question. If you were to have taken over an alternative weekly, I'm just making this up as I go, where the people were trained to have free content over decades, would it have been harder to do this? Or in your humble opinion? That's all I want to know. As people are thinking of launching new news concepts, was it easier or harder, or do you have no opinion on that, Jed?
No, I have an opinion, and I think we stand by the decision we made. I would never suggest it's easy. In fact, in some cases, it's been ruthlessly, brutally hard, particularly with COVID as a backdrop and the state of local news and all of the, I mean, we could go one by one about the headwinds, et cetera. But relatively speaking, I would say easier. And when I say easier, what I mean is, like, you're not in this perpetual transformation game. Transformation can have a positive connotation in some ways, but when transformation is never ending and you're trying to get to the other side of the chasm or whatever, and you don't know what that looks like, or you're never fully getting there, that just becomes really, I think, brutally difficult. And I think this other notion too of, you know, the maybe a case for working with or taking over an existing entity, a quote unquote legacy brand, is that you have a brand and you have an existing audience and you have existing relationships.
And a database.
And a database. And
right.
There are positives there, but there are also negatives there. And there are also things that are really difficult there. And I think you mentioned one. Let's say it was an all weekly or something like that. How are you having to reimagine and reposition that brand to all of those audiences that only know you in certain ways and for certain things for generations? That unto itself is difficult. That's an external challenge. And then there's all the internal challenges of the systems, the people, the culture, the finances, et cetera. Can you get all of that right and aligned at the same time? You put that together, Mike, and that's a difficult puzzle.
Ken, do you agree with everything that Jed just said?
I do. And I would add that a lot of it, two things. One is, this is also a question, life is limited by time and money and everything. And this is a question of internal versus external. So as he said, transformation definitely can work. I'd love to see it work in other places. It is all consuming and it takes time, a lot of time and a lot of money. Yep. We are as relentlessly externally focused as we can be. And I say that coming out of COVID. We did at least a half a dozen major Zoom events, hundreds of people. We were out there in the community. Jen and I have done talks with every Rotary and Chamber of Commerce by Zoom. We took every opportunity to be out there in the community. And so I think that is really important in that question of trying to transform versus trying to create. And the second thing is brand. So Mike asked me to wear this. Here's our lookout shirt. So we have both our lookouts on here. Brand is hugely important. And in the same question of external versus internal, you have that question of old newspaper brands have very different brand resonance community to community. If they are really seen as part of the community, and they are delivering and they are positive on things like, and Jed can share our NPS score. If they're positive on brand, that is a major plus. If they are neutral or negative, you're just asking for more problems. So I think we absolutely stand by it. And I'd love to see experiments of people doing what we're trying to do with our community, commerce, content, our 3 C's approach to this, taking a print paper, but we think we made the right decision at the beginning.
All right, so let's I want to end this with the content. I'm going to do the coming from a Jewish background, would do is, why is this site different than all other sites, if I might be so bold? Before we get there, I want to go over some of the history. You are not nonprofit. You have established a local foundation that's nonprofit. Am I correct? Where you get a certain percentage of every single dollar you take in from reader revenue you give it back to the community, right, Ken? That's the model.
We do 10% back. We do not have a separate foundation. We give that back as we are a company. We're a for-profit public benefit company.
Okay.
We give back 10%. We just cut checks after, what was it, 5.5 months or so for $6,500 to 5 community groups.
Yeah, I just want to underscore that. Like, the big idea we're going for here is that we stand for community betterment. We support community betterment through local high quality news as a civic good, but also through other ways that we can further civic engagement and community support.
Well, that's the whole buffet thing. Ken was screaming for a year ago when I interviewed Ken that local news is more than just reporting it; it's getting engaged in the change. Correct?
Right, and this is one example, not the only, but just one manifestation of that. And it's also this notion of inclusiveness, that if you support Lookout, your dollars and your support are going further in the community by supporting multiple mission-aligned, community betterment-focused organizations. And that community betterment is not a nice to have, or it's not something that Ken gets because he's in this club, but Mike doesn't get it because he doesn't know the secret handshake. Like, everyone that participates in supporting Lookout is also automatically participating in and receiving the benefits of community betterment.
All right. So before I'm going to dissect the content in a moment, because that's what people are waiting for. I think also, what can I do to improve even my existing operation to build this kind of loyalty, lack of conversion, all that and more. Let's go to the history. You are a for-profit company that got $2.5 million donated by Lenfest, Knight Foundation, Google News Initiative, Challenge, and that was about it, right? A few other
Silicon Valley Community Foundation.
There you go. You claimed, now this is not me, this is documented. The reason you should exist and get this money is you claimed that Santa Cruz was a news desert. Dan Polcrano, we both know. I know him well.
I've never met him, but he friended me on Facebook, but I'm still mulling that.
Okay, Dan Polcrano, if you don't know who he is, he's got a Wikipedia page. He's the CEO of Metro Newspapers, which owns the weekly in your area, Good Times, claims that was a false narrative, that it's not a news desert. It's a vibrant news community. You're now talking to the E&P audience.
Yes.
Ken, is it a news desert, or would you like to clarify that statement?
The news desert is being repopulated in Santa Cruz County. So the clearest testament is so much easier, Mike, to talk about this now, having actually published than beforehand.
Exactly.
Well, we did appreciate Dan's publicity. He gave us a real boost. He owns a bunch of little titles around here, and he not only put his screed about me on the cover of Good Times, the Alternative Weekly, but in all the papers. So that was our first major audience development initiative, and we are really appreciative of that.
It reminds me of it just reminds me that when Married with Children came out, no one was watching the show then one woman in Minneapolis saw one episode and put out this whole thing that every company should stop advertising for them. And it got such press that the show became like #1. Fox still sends her a dozen roses on her birthday every year. It's a true story. Look it up. I'm just saying that sometimes, because what he did was he gave you some juice, right? I mean, you got an initial.
Well, we were developing at that point. Jen and I were the first two. We hired a director of community partnerships as employee number 4. We were talking to literally dozens of community groups. We were talking to a lot of people, spreading the word as much as you could under COVID. But it helped. I mean, it helped to some degree. I mean, I think the answer now is in the journalism.
So in other words, the news desert was the lack of what you're doing. This is how I want to turn it.
Well, it's the lack of coverage overall. I've been back in Santa Cruz. I went to school here a long time ago. I've been back for 11 years now, and I'm civically involved. I have a lot of friends. I'm on boards and that kind of stuff. And the consensus among my friends was, even before they knew what I was doing, was that there was no longer a way to find out what was going on at the city council, the school boards, the county board, and that the information about what may happen in any of those places and wider civic life was all word of mouth. So that's task 1 there. And an Alternative Weekly published basically one longer story a week and some shorter stories. The question is that enough for local democracy that should be vibrant? And the answer is clearly not. But I think rather than arguing it, what we did is we started publishing. So we published about 1,800 stories. We counted them up in 6 months, or 6 months and 2 weeks now.
Let's get into the content. What makes those? Is it just the count of the stories that you're doing more?
No, it's not just the count.
Okay.
I can count the number of words, but no, it wouldn't be the number of words. It's the variety and the depth and the breadth of coverage. So if you look at, on one end, the accountability journalism for us, and let's remember the time we came out of. We'll see how soon we all return to normal and forget about the before times here. But we were launched just before Thanksgiving. And really not until the last month or so has COVID eased up and people feel like it's pretty much back to normal. We're very lucky in California. We have the third lowest transmission rates. Things are back to normal pretty much. But for 5 months, it was COVID. So we launched, and day one, we said we will cover COVID and all the people's fears really well. We had an interview with the county health officer the second day of lookout. She had not talked to the local press for the entire year. We had an interview the second day. We were all over what was going on at the hospitals, the healthcare systems, the decisions, the many decisions, the equity in healthcare and in vaccine, the nursing home tragedies. And then it was 2 months of vaccine and who's getting the vaccine. And we'd get these notes. They're just incredible notes from readers of, you may have saved my life. I didn't know that I could get the vaccine from Sutter or Kaiser, one of the healthcare systems here, until you told me. I made a call and they accommodated me. So we were totally focused on getting that story right. And that's the main accountability stuff really for 5-6 of our life. Now, there are other things in accountability, like things that are going on all over the country, sexual misconduct in schools. One of our 10 school districts has had multiple problems brought to light recently. We broke that story. We've talked to girls who started an Instagram account that surfaced many of these charges. We are putting pressure on the school district, public records, working with the First Amendment Coalition, our partners in Silicon Valley. I'm proud of what we're doing there, and that's indicative of where we're going to hold power accountable, which is clearly what we need to do. On a more basic level, yeah, we are covering city, county, and the school districts, and that is really important, and they weren't covered. And in fact, what local observers will tell you is that the level of coverage from others has now increased because of what we're doing. The fun part now is to be in a digital form, in a mobile first, 70% of our readership is mobile, a full service site.
That's my next question. Will you start doing lifestyle? Will I learn which brews to drink, where to go to get a good steak? Will I learn how to raise my family better, save money, make my home have more value? Is that part of your future content, or is it going to stay hard news?
Well, it's Santa Cruz, so it's more vegan guides than steak, but we can find the steak now.
I buy an avocado toast. Please excuse me.
Yeah, right. For $9.
Yeah. In fact, you will find that stuff now. That stuff has started to increase over the next month, and a major expansion of arts and entertainment, culture, food, starting basically in the end of June. So that
how about video? Are you taking advantage of the 5G universe? Are your reporters shooting multimedia, or is it just good reporting, or is it a little bit of both? What you doing?
I think in a lot of ways, we are into a second wave here where we are not doing that much video now. We will. We've just hired a Report for America, a reporter to cover business and technology.
I saw that, yeah.
On the side, both a chef and a videographer, so very versatile. We will do more of that. And in a lot of ways, I think we are finding it's a good problem to have. We did what we needed to do with the concentration on COVID particularly. Now we are kind of opening up to become more of the normal news company we wanted to be. And in fact, we've had, as I wrote about, we've had changes. We are hiring a next executive editor so that we are looking real widely at who do we want to be now in a normal time, and what kind of adjustments do we want to make in terms of that coverage.
Let me add one quick point on content really tied to audience, because there's kind of three different things here. There's, as you and Ken were just talking about, the actual content itself, the coverage and expanding the breadth of that and the depth. There's the storytelling formats, the way stories are told, video, audio, et cetera. And then there's the distribution of those. How do they actually find audiences? How do they find the right audiences? And how do they find full audiences where they're not just in echo chambers serving the same people that already know how to get it, already pay for it and things like that, right? And so we really, I think, tried to focus on all three of those dimensions connected to each other. So you asked about video. That's a very good question about a storytelling format. I would also spend a second here, though, on distribution. So we have put really big efforts. We talked about building an email database. Well, what's that connected to? That's connected to building great email products, right? So we have 2 core email newsletters, breaking news alerts, but you will see a rapid and massive expansion of targeted email newsletter products from us in the months ahead. We launched during the height of COVID, and this is now broadened beyond COVID to overall breaking news. We've really used text alerts, I think, smartly overall, and we're early adopters or users of that in our early days with subtext, and we'll use more of that. We'll do texting to specific channels. You can imagine it being, best bets and picks of things to do this weekend as life comes back to normal, new restaurant openings, whatever it might be.
That would be amazing, because it's hard to find a good story where any news publishing outlet has captured mobile numbers.
Right, exactly. And we're early days at it, and we have several hundred as compared to several thousand when it comes to emails. And they're different mediums, and people treat them differently. Letting somebody into your text window is very different than letting them into a tab in your Gmail. But you've got text, you have email, we could spend an hour just on social media and community seeding we've done organically in Facebook groups, in subreddits, in Nextdoor communities, et cetera. So all of that has been happening. And then I would also note, and this ties back to Ken's point about expanding content into lifestyle and into community happenings, our really big focus on being a convener of community conversations. And so much of that early days, of course, was virtual because it had to be. But now it doesn't have to be as much, or we can be selective about, judiciously, safely, what's the right kind of community conversation, event, forum, what have you, done IRL in real life or done virtually, or really, I think, this is something Ken and I talk about a lot, dual platform. Can you do them both? Can you expand the reach of events and conversations you do? Because now we have a greater grasp on how to use virtual technologies while still capturing the best of a face-to-face conversation.
IRL is an initialism for in real life. Okay.
It sounds like a race car acronym or something.
Well, it's an initialism, but okay, yeah. I'll give you another initialism. FCRO. That is your title. You are the founding Chief Revenue Officer. We have been chatting here for almost 30 minutes. I have yet to hear about revenue beyond audience revenue. Jed, are you doing sponsored content? Jed, are you selling advertising? What's going on?
All caps, YES, underlined, bold-faced with multiple exclamation marks behind it. Not only do we not run away from that, we embrace that. The business community, local businesses are a huge part of what we do and a huge part of Lookout's identity and mission. It's something Ken and I really impressed upon the team and we're proud of. On November 20th, 2020, when you went to the site on launch day, you saw, we don't necessarily call them advertisers, we call them marketing partners.
That's what we call them, yeah.
Multi-month, multi-platform content storytelling relationships with them. And I can talk about the specifics there. But when you went to Lookout on November 20th, you saw multiple reputable local business institutions and civic institutions on the site. You saw UC Santa Cruz, the largest employer in the county, Cabrillo College, Museum of Art and History, and others, Santa Cruz County Bank, one of the large, really reputable financial institutions. You saw 60 different nonprofits and civic groups represented. The whole idea, and of course there's revenue tied to it, which is great for our business, but the whole idea is, right, we talked about earlier, the difficulty of building a new brand. How do you break through? How do you get resonance? How do you build credibility? Well, there's a lot of external work in the community that has to be done, and we're doing that constantly. But ultimately, you want somebody to come to your site or read your emails or whatever it might be. And the first time they come there, it feels like the place they live in. Yeah, this represents my community. I see Santa Cruz County Bank. I bank there. I see Second Harvest Food Bank. I've given, lunch meals there, whatever it might be. And we wanted to create that effect civically and in terms of the business community from day one.
Ken, I don't want to get into this blurring lines, church and state stuff, but I want to ask you point blank right now, is that something that you keep your eyes on, since you are, this is the Ken Doctor, the Ken Doctor / Jed Williams, but let's be honest, Ken, you were talking this up for a while. Are you okay with all that? Or does it worry you a little? Because a lot of people are worried about this branded, sponsored, native, whatever the hell you want to call it, world we're slipping into. What's your opinion on all that?
It doesn't, that is one thing that does not worry me at all. And in a startup, you got a lot of things to keep track of. That isn't. I mean, this was an idea that Jen and I essentially borrowed from a lot of people who are doing it. Some are doing it really well. Some are doing it poorly. Some have blurred the line between a newsroom and advertising. Some don't even know they blurred the line, but are doing it. There's that whole variation, and I've written about it. So we created the program from day one to say, we love to see commerce and institutions on the site, as Jed said, and because that's what life is like. If you're walking down the street, I was just writing something and saying, like, I remember being in Eastern Europe, and right after the fall of the Berlin Wall, you'd go to all these cities and there'd be no stores. And it was just totally bizarre. But that's what we've created in a lot of the new journalism, is these sites that only have stories. They don't feel like the city. So we did that. That was really important. And that we did not see, and we have not seen, a conflict in giving really good space to advertisers, marketing partners, education, health, finance, and doing our high quality editorial. We were very careful in how we labeled this as promoted content, sponsored by, very clear. I really don't think we had more than 10 questions. And over the first couple of months, we answered them. We were both very attuned to, we think we got this right, because you're making up all this stuff when you're doing a startup, but maybe we didn't. Maybe we're going to have to label something, maybe put a gray screen behind something. We didn't have to do any of that. And I don't think I've gotten any, and we talk to readers a lot, I don't think I've gotten any comment on that or any confusion on that or question of its provenance in 3 months. So the newsroom does not participate in creating it. That's a strong line. The presentation is separate, and it works incredibly well.
Does anyone?
Some of that, by the way, is that the content is actually good. I mean, it's in that sense, it's like journalism at the end of the day. If the content isn't good, we can talk about all this other stuff, and it's probably window dressing. But
no. I'm 1,000% with you. We keep a very strong eye at E&P. Sponsored content has become our largest revenue category.
No question, and it's been a big winner for us. I mean, I think Ken and I would tell you it has been as big a winner as anything we've done to this point, and kind of an epiphany of, frankly, how much and how fast it's grown. And really, Ken talked about earlier this idea of content, commerce, community. Right. And here we're connecting two of those C's, commerce and community. What we found early days, Mike, is even as we had this sort of immature new brand, small audience, relatively speaking, growing fast but small, these local business institutions would look at us, they'd look at the site, they'd hear our mission, they'd see our work with the civic community, they'd see our commitment to informing, citizens through our journalism. They go, yep, that's a trusted environment. That's the kind of environment we want our brand to be in. And we believe those guys. We feel like we're aligned with them, and the content that they've done, it's their production. Again, to Ken's point, our newsroom has no involvement at all. The content has been a representation of that.
But
they support nonprofits. It's how they support customers. It's not hucksters on a corner trying to get you on a deal.
So it gets to the point, like when I protect my brand, you would reject advertisers that don't fit into the quality content you accept into the market. We're the same way. No, I'm all for it. I'm glad you guys are doing it. So I'm going to ask the big question as we get to near the end of this journey, gentlemen. Everybody, Ken, about 20 minutes ago.
This was a 4-hour interview. I heard this was a 4-hour interview.
Yeah, we'll keep you here all afternoon. I just won't be here. You guys keep talking. All right. Okay, everybody took out
like one of our one-on-ones every day, Ken. We'll just keep going.
All right, I'll just shut up and let you guys chat with each other. We can have a meeting, and I'll just tape it. Okay, here we are. 20 minutes ago, everybody took out their calculator and said, okay, he's doing about 17 to 17.5 a month on reader revenue. Okay, we all figured that out in our brains, and you don't have to confirm that. Is that on track? And what is that as percentage of total revenue? I'm trying to get the numbers. You don't have to tell me. You can tell me to go away. No, you don't have any right, but where is that in percentage of total revenue compared to what Jed just talked about? If I can get an idea.
Where is what? Where is membership? Did you say?
Is reader revenue your membership, audience revenue, when we call consumer revenue? Is that your number one revenue stream, or are you doing 2 to 1 on advertising, 3 to 1? I'm trying to figure. Go ahead.
Our forecast, putting our finger in the air at the beginning with all this was right. We would be at about over time, over two to 3 years, about 65% reader revenue, and the rest essentially advertising.
And then everybody can make a living on that, and everything works.
And it works, and it's I like to say our model is heavily borrowed in its thinking from the New York Times, which is a great model, and that's where they're at, and the best transitioners, that's where they're at. We also knew, and we also projected that it would be faster, we believe, to sell advertising as marketing partnership as we did, and that it might tend to be closer to 50-50 at the beginning. That, in fact, is what has happened. So if you look at the revenue, it's pretty close to 50-50. The amount of membership revenue, your guesstimate's not far off. It has reached over $20,000 a month in some months, which is good. We are exceeding that now in marketing partners. And the important number there too is we have 17 marketing partners, which is an incredible number. And there too, at this point, and we know this will change, but no churn. Everybody who's come in has continued in one form. Some have increased, some have stayed the same size. I think we had one that lowered its budget. So all of these are relatively stable, as much as anything can be stable after 6 months of a startup. And consequently, we think that we by our numbers, we're ahead of plan in terms of.
That was my last question. So you're ahead of plan.
We're ahead of plan.
Through a pandemic.
I know. And so, I mean, if we were to say, if this is projectable, we would, if it's absolutely projectable, we could finally take our vacation to Hawaii, which I would like to take this team to Hawaii, given everything we've been through with the pandemic. But at the same time, 6 months is not enough history for us to say, Lookout Local is now going to go into 3 new markets. So we're going to see. I'm trying to anticipate your questions. I think you.
That you got it. I was like, it says Lookout Santa Cruz on the screen. When am I going to see Lookout Altoona? That was my next question. But go ahead.
Altoona might be lower on the list. I can't remember.
Did we do a mock logo for Altoona back in the day? I can't remember, Ken.
It could be a fun logo.
We're going to get some hate emails from Altoona, but I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, you said it. We didn't say it. You said it.
All right, but go ahead.
If there's one thing, I just want to add one quick point on marketing partners. This is going to correlate, Mike, with what we talked about with reader revenue and membership earlier. And if anybody's asking for this in the audience, if there's one thing I think we would impart about this, it is value-based products, value-based offerings, and defending that and having a story around that. And so like with marketing partnership, when Ken says we have 17 marketing partners and that's a great number, well, some people might let their imaginations go wild and go, well, are they paying you $100 a month? Because that's not great. Or, what are we talking about here? And we've been very selective, not just sort of philosophically or spiritually in terms of who we work with, but also, frankly, their ability to align with us being a value-based product and the fact that we are giving them a digital storytelling platform that we believe is way beyond what they've had access to locally. And so we're talking about, with each of these 17, not only renewal, but multi-month commitments at multiple $1,000s a month. And that's how you look at this and go, okay, in the same way that we may not need to get 6 or 8 or 10,000 paying members to be on track because value-based pricing and ARPU, we don't necessarily, and we won't have 100 marketing partners or 100 advertisers, because we've got a valuable platform. We're protecting the value of that platform, and we're allowing those partners to really unleash their content storytelling using that platform.
Jed, could you do me a favor and stop being so milquetoast and show a little bit more faith in your product? I got to say, you guys do work in a physical building, right? It's not all virtual. You all collect in one place together, the team?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have from the beginning. During the worst 2 months of COVID, December and January, we were completely remote. We're all back in the office now. We're actually moving into a new office space in August, which will be double the size, more than probably 2,200, 2,400 square feet. We got 14 full-time people. So it's really important. And I know I'm
envious of that, because I run E&P as a virtual company. I got my editor-in-chief in Orange County, my managing editor in Nevada. I got Pete Conti up in Richmond, and I'm down here in Tampa. We're all working virtually, no office. Is that an important thing? Do you have a lot of energy and creative juices flowing in there? Ken,
They are starting to flow, because we just got everybody double vaccinated. I think the last person to get vaccinated will hit his 2-week mark this Friday, in fact. So we've been very careful. Thank God we've had no issues on our team at all. And so we are gradually filtering into that office. And I think Mike, it's one of the big differences between national media, which you are, and community media. Community media needs to be in touch with the community and then the people on the team. And it's a great size team, 14 people. So we have 4 people now. We've expanded. We've hired a director of sales and marketing. Everybody on the team contributes, and there's a lot of cross-pollination. You have to have an office environment where they can see each other and collaborate when they're not out in the community doing reporting or sales. That is essential. And I think in a lot of these discussions about, the new normal, the new hybrid, all of that kind of stuff, it's fine to cover it. It's fine to say that the engineers can sit at home, and look in their little office. Journalism doesn't work that way, either in the business or in the reporting. And so we're pretty steadfast about that we will have a very collaborative office environment. And I'd say it's more than halfway there now with coming out of COVID. And especially as we move into the new office with conference space and all, it's going to really explode.
Well, I came from a dental family, doctor. So this is our 6-month checkup. And with your kind permission, E&P is going to check with you again in 6 months and see how the flossing's doing. I want to keep in touch with you guys, because this is really interesting as this experiment now becomes a reality. So Jed Williams, formerly, of course, Chief Strategy Officer for the LMA, now founding Chief Revenue Officer of Lookout Local, and Ken Doctor of Newsonomics, now the CFO and founder of Lookout Local. I thank you both for your valuable time. If anyone wants to see the content or subscribe to the newsletter, it's just the website is lookout.co, right?
Go to lookoutsantacruz.com. That's the easiest way to do it.
Loooutsantacruz.com.
And you won't be able to avoid the calls to action to sign up for newsletters. They are thoughtfully done, but they are prevalent. So it'll be easy to sign up.
There you go. Gentlemen, thanks for your valuable time. Stay healthy, stay well. Have a little latte and avocado toast on me, if you don't mind. Send me the check.
Okay, we'll do that.
Bills in the mail. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thanks.